And I agree for the most part with Costa. Actually, I don't. Woo! I haven't said any words today. I need to remember how to speak before I start recording. What are words? I don't even know. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Power Rankings. It's Reinforce here, back from a bit of a hiatus, but we had Costa filling in for me, luckily, and provided his own Power Rankings last week. So you guys enjoyed that so much, even so, that we might even bring back Costa for another episode later down in the season, because, you know, we're here to share the love, and if someone else can provide Power Rankings as well, that is great. So this week I am going to return with my controversial Power Rankings, but there's not a ton of changes. So hopefully you down in the comment section, you'll agree with me on some of these changes and some of the ups and downs, etc. But let's start from the top. So at number 1, we have the San Francisco Shock. And I don't really think you can dethrone this team yet. I really like what I'm seeing from the San Francisco Shock. We'll see what Genji they prefer to play in the Countdown Cup. According to Super, they have many different styles. So that is going to be interesting to follow. But for now, San Francisco Shock remains number 1. Now at number 2, we have the Paris Eternal, and like Costa, I'm liking what I'm seeing from this team. Of course, they have their Summer Showdown success, and now they're also playing a lot more Sombra, some Doomfist composition, so I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Paris Eternal. Not quite enough yet to dethrone the San Francisco Shock, because we want consistency within these rankings as well, even more so than Costa. But I like what I'm seeing from the Paris Eternal. Now at number 3, we have the Philadelphia Fusion, and I actually think that Fusion borderline deserves to be higher. I think this past week they looked phenomenal when they played Ivy on the Genji, then they rotated in Hisu to play some of that Sombra. I think this team really looked like they had it figured out. The best way I could describe this to you guys is that they had a flow to their play. There was no hesitation, there was no like real setup to it. It all just sort of came to them, which is the result of great practice and great coaching. So I really saw that in their play, and it looked really crisp. And I might even get to the point where I predict the Philadelphia Fusion to actually win the entirety of Countdown Cup. I was that impressed with their play. So many good things happening with the Fusion, and I'm very excited to see where they end up in the Countdown Cup. At number 4, no changes from Costa's ranking. We got the Florida Mayhem as well. And again, like, this is a solid team. I like what I'm seeing from this team. They have some versatility going. Yaki is looking better and better. And then as well, you have BQB alongside him. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Florida Mayhem. And they have some consistency to their play that we haven't really seen from any other North American teams. And we'll get to that later on, like Costa explained last week. I think there is a bit of a tier break from number 4 to number 5. And now he put Dallas Fuel at number 5 last week. Didn't end up too great, but you know, that's Power Rankings. I've made plenty of you know, mishaps in the past this season, so that's just kind of how it goes. Dallas Fuel is not number 5 in my Power Rankings this week. Instead, I have the Atlanta Reign, and this one I'm not totally sure about, because I think that there are a lot of teams that are on a similar level to the Atlanta Reign in the North American region. And they're not necessarily, you know, establishing themselves as a firm number 5 team rather, because Erster has sort of struggled to really fill the hole of Baby Bay. He has a great Genji, but they haven't really been able to play around it that much. Edison on the Tracer continues to perform, etc. So they have some good pieces here, but I wouldn't really say that they're, you know, a hard lock at number 5. You know, at number 6, we actually have the LA Gladiators, and the Gladiators have proven that they have a very high peak level, okay? When they play at their best, they can bring it to the Philadelphia Fusion, and we saw that not too long ago, that they actually got reverse swept by the Philadelphia Fusion. But their peak level with Kevster and the Genji is really impressive, so I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Gladiators, and they might come and snag the number 5 spot from the Atlanta Reign later on. So this tier is a bit of a mess. Now Dallas Fuel were the one team from Costa's ranking last week that I decided to demote a little bit. I didn't like what I saw from them too much. They have a peak level as well, and I think we saw them come into life a little bit this past week, but they started off very rough. They didn't look solid at all. A lot of uncertainty with the Dallas Fuel, but they still find themselves above the Houston Outlaws, keeping their victory over them in mind just like 2-3 weeks ago. So that is going to conclude my North American Power Rankings. Moving on, we have the APAC Power Rankings, and I agree for the most part with Costa. Actually, I don't. But at number one, we have the Shanghai Dragons, and I think this is a hard lock. There's no need to really explain this pick. You all understand why Shanghai Dragons is at number 1 at this point in the season. Number 2, Guangzhou Charge. No big surprise here either. Great team. Really excited for them going into the Countdown Cup. I like the dive we have been seeing from them lately. Eileen popping off as well. So some good things from the Guangzhou Charge. Going to be exciting to see what they can do in the Countdown Cup. Number 3, New York Excelsior, and yes, they've been a bit shaky. They took that loss to the Chengdu Hunters, but still, I think that they have the right pieces, and I think that their peak level is actually pretty good as well, that they can have a chance to go triumphant against the Guangzhou Charge this next week in the Countdown Cup, and then maybe, you know, compete with the Shanghai Dragons. We'll see what happens there, but there is some good level to the New York Excelsior. I think they're better than the rest of the teams in the APAC region. Now, at number 4, Costa had Chengdu Hunters, and I completely understand it because Chengdu Hunters had a really good run going into the Countdown Cup. They had some good performances, primarily when Amon was on that wrecking ball. The problem is, that wasn't Hero Pools. That was when Orisa was removed, and actually the meta was a bit of a shake-up. It was a bit more dive, and you could really play that wrecking ball to a whole nother level. Now, going into the Countdown Cup, there will be no hero pools, which means that Orisa will be available, and I think the Chengdu Hunters are going to have a much harder time making their wrecking ball composition work, and Jinmu playing on that Genji as comfortable as he did these past matchups. So with that in mind, I put the Seoul Dynasty at number 4 because I actually think that they have some good performances. They did take a loss to the Guangzhou Charge, but I'm still liking what I'm seeing from the Seoul Dynasty. I think they have a good level to them. They just haven't gotten those wins yet. But when they play the good teams, like when they play in New York, when they play Guangzhou, when they play Shanghai, they actually bring it to a pretty high level. And that's why I put Seoul Dynasty at number 4, because I think you have to respect what they have going performance-wise according to the eye test, even though you don't really have the results to back it up. So that is going to conclude it for my 2 power rankings going into this week's Countdown Cup. I'm very excited for this tournament coming up, and I'm sure you are as well. Let me know down in the comments if you disagree with any of my power rankings, and if you have any teams you want to move up or down, etc. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, all that good stuff. And stay tuned for more of Reinforce's power rankings, but also Costa's power rankings. You know, you never know when Costa's going to return. So stay tuned, everyone. Hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next week.